Eve always believed that if you pay attention, a room will tell you everything you need to know. You don't need people to spell things out. You just have to notice what feels off. Eve trusted that instinct my whole life, and it served me well, right up until the day I walked into that lawyer's office and realized I should have trusted it sooner. The second I stepped inside, my body went stiff. Not slowly. Not gradually. All at once, like a switch flipped. My eyes went straight to the corner of the conference room, and that's when I saw her. Lauren. My daughter-in-law sat there like she owned the place, legs crossed neatly, hands folded in her lap. She looked calm. Confident. Comfortable. And she absolutely should not have been there. No one told me she'd be attending. No one even hinted at it. She looked up at me and smiled. It was the kind of smile that doesn't reach the eyes. The kind that tells you the person already knows how this ends, and you don't. That was when I knew, whatever was about to happen, she'd planned it. Every step. But none of it started there. Not really. To understand how things went so wrong, you have to go back to the worst day of my life. The day I buried my brother. My brother's name was Daniel Carter. Danny, to everyone who knew him. He was 4 years younger than me, but for over 60 years, he was my shadow. Or maybe I was his. It's hard to say with brothers like us. We grew up in Nova Scotia, poor but stubborn, learning early how to work hard and depend on each other. When we hit our 20s, we packed up and moved to Toronto together. No safety net. No wealthy relatives. Just grit and a shared belief that if we worked harder than everyone else, we'd be fine. And we were. We built our construction business from scratch. Just the two of us. Side by side on job sites. Late nights going over numbers. Equal partners in every sense of the word. Danny never married. Never even came close. He used to joke that had watched too many men lose themselves in bad marriages and didn't feel like joining the club. I like my freedom, he'd say. And I like my family. Especially my son, Ethan. Ethan was Danny's godson. Danny held him before I did, back when my hands were shaking too badly to trust myself. He was there for every milestone, first steps, first bike, first broken heart. He taught Ethan how to skate, how to fish, how to build something that would last. When Ethan decided to become an engineer, Danny paid for half his degree without asking, without bragging. Just said smart kids shouldn't start life buried under debt. To Ethan, Danny wasn't just an uncle. He was a second father. Which made losing him unbearable. Danny died on a job site in Mississauga. Massive heart attack, they said. 1 minute he was inspecting foundation work for a condo build, the next he was on the ground. Gone before help arrived. 66 years old. Still strong. Still sharp. The funeral was small. Danny wanted it that way. Had updated his will months earlier and was specific about everything. Cremation. Ashes scattered in Georgian Bay, where we used to fish as kids. No speeches unless they meant something. No fuss. Ethan gave the eulogy. My son stood up there at 34, successful, composed, and completely broken inside. He spoke about Danny like a teacher, a guide, a man who showed him how strength and kindness could exist in the same breath. There wasn't a dry eye in the place. Lauren sat beside me, holding my hand. She'd been married to Ethan for 6 years by then. I tried to like her. I really did. But there was always something behind her eyes that made me cautious. Like she was always calculating, always thinking 3 steps ahead. Still, Ethan loved her. And that was enough for me to keep my doubts to myself. After the service, after we scattered Danny's ashes and shared whiskey back at my place, people slowly drifted home. Ethan and Lauren stayed to help clean up, at least, Ethan did. Lauren disappeared into the guest room after 20 minutes, saying she had a migraine. As Ethan and I stood at the sink, washing dishes in silence, he finally spoke. "Dad," he said quietly, "Danny's lawyer called me yesterday." I didn't look up. "Greg Holloway?" "Yeah. He wants to meet with both of us next week." That made sense. Or at least, it should have. "About the will?" I asked. Ethan hesitated. Then he nodded. I already knew what was in that will. Danny and I had gone over it together. 40% of his share of the business to Ethan. The rest split between cousins and charities. Simple. Fair. Done with a clear head. But the way Ethan looked at me told me something else was weighing on him. "Dad," he said, lowering his voice, "Lauren's been tense about money lately." I dried a plate slowly and set it aside. "What do you mean?" And that was the first crack. I didn't say much after Ethan mentioned Lauren's worries about money. I could tell he was already uncomfortable bringing it up, and pushing him wouldn't have helped. So we finished the dishes in silence, each of us lost in our own thoughts. At the time, I figured it was just grief talking. People do strange things when money and loss mix together. I had no idea how wrong I was. A week later, I found myself standing outside Greg Holloway's law office, staring up at the gray brick building like it might give me answers if I looked long enough. It was a cold February afternoon, the kind that sinks into your bones and makes everything feel heavier than it already is. I walked inside, gave my name to the receptionist, and she smiled politely. "Mr. Carter, they're waiting for you in the conference room." They. I should have asked who they were. I didn't. Grief has a way of dulling your instincts, even when you think you're paying attention. When I opened the conference room door, the air shifted. Lauren was already there. She sat in the corner chair, legs crossed, dressed in black like she was still playing the grieving widow role, even though this wasn't her loss to carry. Her posture was relaxed, like she belonged in that room. Like she'd planned on being there all along. My stomach tightened. "Where's Ethan?" I asked, my voice sharper than I intended. Greg stood up from behind the table. He looked uncomfortable, like a man who already knew this meeting wasn't going to go smoothly. "Please, have a seat, Richard," he said. "I'll sit when you tell me where my son is." Lauren smiled before Greg could answer. "Ethan isn't feeling well today," she said gently. "I'm here on his behalf." I turned to Greg. "On his behalf?" "She has power of attorney," Greg said carefully. "So yes." The words hit me like a punch to the chest. "Since when?" 3 months ago. 3 months. Right around the time Danny updated his will. I sat down slowly, every warning bell in my head going off at once. Lauren watched me the way a chess player watches an opponent realize they're already in check. Greg cleared his throat and opened a folder. "I'll get straight to the point. Daniel Carter's most recent will is being contested." I laughed once, sharp and humorless. "Contested? By who?" Lauren didn't hesitate. "By me. On Ethan's behalf." "That's absurd," I snapped. "My brother was perfectly sound. We went over that will together." Greg nodded, but his face stayed tight. "Mrs. Carter is claiming Daniel wasn't of sound mind and that undue influence may have been involved." "Influence from who?" I demanded. She folded her hands. "From you." The room felt smaller. "That's a lie," I said. "And you know it." "There's more," Greg said, clearly wanting to get through this as cleanly as possible. Mrs. Carter is also requesting that any inheritance designated for Ethan be placed under her direct control. I stared at him. Why? Due to concerns about Ethan's mental health, Lauren said smoothly. He's been struggling with severe depression and anxiety. I felt the floor tilt beneath me. That's not true. Lauren tilted her head, sympathetic. Richard, we didn't want to worry you. But Ethan hasn't been himself for a while now. Eve's been managing the finances because he's not in a position to make big decisions. I had just spent hours with my son days earlier. He was grieving, yes, but he was present. Clear. Capable. This is a lie, I said. I want to speak to my son. He's not taking calls, she replied. Doctor's orders. I looked at Greg. Is this legal? Greg's jaw tightened. If the power of attorney is valid and supported by medical documentation, then yes. Temporarily. My chest burned with anger. And there's something else, Greg added. Something Daniel specifically instructed me to share with you privately. Lauren stood immediately. Whatever you have to say can be said in front of me. In family. No, Greg said firmly. Daniel was clear. This is for Richard alone. For just a second, Lauren's expression slipped. I saw irritation flash across her face, cold and sharp. Then the smile returned like nothing had happened. Of course, she said. I'll step outside. Her heels clicked against the hardwood as she left the room. The moment the door shut, Greg exhaled and walked to a filing cabinet. He pulled out a large envelope, thick and sealed, with Danny's signature written boldly across the flap. Your brother came to see me 5 months ago, he said quietly. Not 6. 5. My throat tightened. What did he want? He was worried, Greg said. He said if anything happened to him, anything at all, I was to give this to you. And only you. He slid the envelope across the table. I stared at it, dread pooling in my stomach. Because suddenly, Danny's death didn't feel natural anymore. It felt planned. I stared at the envelope for a long moment before touching it. Danny's signature was scrawled across the seal in that familiar, heavy-handed way of his. Seeing it there, so deliberate, so final, made my chest tighten. My brother hadn't been the type to overreact or dramatize things. If he went to this kind of effort, it meant something had truly scared him. My hands weren't steady when I finally picked it up. What's in it? I asked Greg. He shook his head. I don't know. He sealed it in front of me. Told me to give it to you only if he died, and only if you were alone. That was all I needed to hear. I broke the seal and slid the contents out onto the conference table. A flash drive. A folded handwritten letter. And a thick stack of documents, bank statements, printed emails, and photographs. My stomach dropped. The letter was on top. Danny's handwriting was clear and firm, dated 5 months earlier. Rich, if you're reading this, then I'm gone. And I need you to be smarter than I was. Only Danny ever called me Rich. I read in silence as Greg sat back and let me work through it. Danny wrote that had overheard a conversation at Ethan's birthday party the previous spring. Lauren had been in the garage, talking to a man Danny didn't recognize. She'd spoken about money. About waiting. About how old men don't live forever and how she'd worked too hard to walk away now. Danny said he didn't understand it at first, but it bothered him enough that he started paying attention. Really paying attention. As I read, memories began lining up in my head. Subtle things I'd brushed off. Missed dinners. Shortened phone calls. Ethan pulling away from friends and family, always with Lauren right beside him. Danny wrote that Lauren had been slowly isolating Ethan, piece by piece. "You probably didn't notice," he wrote, "because she's careful. But think about it. When was the last time Ethan came to Sunday dinner alone? When was the last time he called you without her listening?" My jaw tightened. Danny had hired a private investigator. The report was in the envelope. Lauren wasn't her real name. She'd used at least 3 different ones. She'd been married twice before, both times to older men with money. Both men were dead. One from a fall down the stairs. One from a medication overdose. Both left everything to her. "She's a con artist," Danny wrote. "A good one. And now she's got her hooks in Ethan." My hands were shaking by the time I reached the part about the recordings. Danny had installed audio recorders in his own house after becoming suspicious. The flash drive contained phone conversations, Lauren speaking casually about timelines, inheritance, and people like they were already gone. Talking about Danny. Talking about me. I looked up at Greg, my vision blurring. "She killed him." Greg didn't argue. "I've known your brother for 20 years, he said quietly. He wasn't paranoid. If he was worried enough to do this, then something is very wrong." I asked the question that had been clawing at me since the funeral. "How exactly did Danny die?" Greg opened another file. The official cause was cardiac arrest. But there were traces of digitalis in his system. "That's heart medication," I said. "Yes. And in high doses, it can cause cardiac arrest." Danny wasn't on heart meds. The coroner noted it, Greg continued, but ruled it inconclusive. There was arterial blockage, so the heart attack was plausible. Plausible. Not certain. I opened the investigator's report. Page after page of photographs showed Lauren meeting a man in expensive suits. Lunches. Coffee shops. Long conversations in parked cars. The man was identified as Nathan Cole, a financial consultant known for helping clients move money offshore. Bank statements showed money being siphoned from Ethan's accounts. Small amounts at first. Then larger ones. All ending up in accounts solely in Lauren's name. Emails between Lauren and Nathan discuss timelines, elderly asset transitions, and making everything look natural. I felt sick. "She's going to kill me," I said out loud. "She killed Danny, and now she's coming for me. Then Ethan inherits, and she controls everything." Greg's expression was grim. "We need to go to the police." "With what?" I snapped. "Circumstantial evidence and recordings shall claim are fake." I stood abruptly. "I need to see my son." "She won't allow it," Greg said. "She can't stop me. I'm his father." I was wrong. When I went to Ethan's house that evening, Lauren answered the door with a calm smile. "I'm sorry," she said gently, "but Ethan can't see anyone right now. His doctor says family stress is making his condition worse. I need 5 minutes. I can't allow that." I tried to step past her. She raised her voice. "Please don't force your way into our home. You'll have to call the police." A neighbor across the street was watching. Lauren waved, playing the worried wife protecting her fragile husband. I left. That night, I sat alone in my house and listened to the recordings on Danny's flash drive. Lauren's voice was clear as day. "He's old. A heart attack will look natural." Another voice laughed. "And the brother? He's easy after Danny's gone. High blood pressure. Another year or 2. They laughed. I shut it off. My brother had been murdered. My son was being drugged. And I was running out of time. Once you realize someone is trying to erase you, everything changes. You stop thinking in days and start thinking in moves. That night, after listening to the recordings my brother left behind, I barely slept. Every sound in my house felt louder. Every shadow felt heavier. Danny was gone, and whatever protection his presence had offered was gone with him. The next morning, I called Greg Holloway. I want a full investigation into Danny's death, I told him. Autopsy review, toxicology re-examination, everything. And I want an independent medical evaluation of my son. There was a pause on the line. Richard, that's going to take time. And money. I have both, I said. Do it. Lauren didn't sit still once the motions were filed. She fought back hard and fast. Within weeks, she filed counterclaims accusing me of harassment and emotional abuse. She painted me as an unstable, grieving old man interfering with my son's recovery. A judge granted her a restraining order. I wasn't allowed within 100 meters of Ethan or his house. That was the hardest part. Worse than the fear. Worse than the anger. My son vanished from my life overnight. His phone number changed. Emails bounced back. Letters went unanswered. I didn't know if he was safe or what she was feeding him, medication, lies, or both. All I could do was wait and gather what evidence I could. I hired my own investigator. We dug into Lauren's past deeper than Danny ever had. Her real name wasn't Lauren Carter. It was Allison Draper. She'd been arrested twice in her 20s for fraud, though charges were quietly dropped. She'd disappeared for years between marriages, likely to avoid patterns being noticed. Husband 1. Victor Lang. Died of a heart medication overdose. Ruled accidental. Husband 2. Paul Hendricks. Fell down a flight of stairs. No witnesses. Both men had left everything to her. We took everything we had to the police. Detective Maya Reynolds from the Toronto Police Fraud Division listened carefully. She didn't dismiss me outright, which I appreciated. But she said what I already feared. It's circumstantial, she said. Strong, but not enough. We need something concrete. Let me see my son, I pleaded. He can tell you what she's doing. If he's being drugged, she said gently, his testimony won't hold. We need physical proof. That's when she leaned back and looked at me differently. There may be another way, she said. She laid it out simply. We would make Lauren believe time was no longer on her side. We'd leak information, through her lawyer, that I was dying. Late-stage cancer. Months, not years. She'll want to lock things down, Detective Reynolds said. If she thinks you're close to the end, she'll push Ethan to transfer assets. Or she may try to speed things up. You think she'd kill me? I asked. I think she already has, the detective replied. I agreed to the plan. Fake medical records were created. Subpoenas were accidentally mishandled during a deposition so Lauren's attorney would see them. Then we waited. 3 days later, my phone rang. It was Lauren. Her voice was warm, dripping with sympathy. Richard, I heard about your diagnosis. I'm so sorry. I swallowed my anger. Thank you. I know things have been difficult, she continued, but you're still Ethan's father. He'd want to see you. My hands tightened around the phone. He would? Yes. He's been improving. The new medication is really helping. He's been asking about you. A lie wrapped in kindness. Why don't you come over for dinner tomorrow? She said. I'll make your favorite. Pot roast. Pot roast. The same meal Danny loved. ID like that, I said carefully. Detective Reynolds set everything in motion. Surveillance outside the house. Officers nearby. A wire on me. A plan to intervene if anything went wrong. I didn't feel protected. But I felt resolved. The next evening, I drove to Ethan's house with my heart pounding. 6 months had passed since ID last seen him. I didn't know what kind of man ID find. Lauren answered the door wearing an apron, playing the devoted wife to perfection. "Richard, come in," she said warmly. "Ethan's in the living room." He was sitting on the couch when I walked in, and my heart broke all over again. Head lost weight. His eyes were dull, unfocused. His shoulders slumped like he'd forgotten how to stand tall. "Dad," he said softly. I sat beside him. "How are you, son?" "I'm okay," he said. "Lauren takes good care of me." She smiled from the doorway. "Dinner will be ready in 20 minutes. Ethan, sweetheart, why don't you show your father the workshop I set up for you in the garage?" Ethan stood slowly, like every movement took effort. I followed him past the kitchen, where Lauren stirred something in a pot, and out into the garage. The door closed behind us. Ethan turned to me, and his eyes changed. They were sharp. Clear. Awake. "Dad," he whispered, "I've been faking it." My knees nearly gave out. "Eve been pretending to take the pills," he said quickly. "Hiding them. Recording everything. I know what she's doing." Relief and terror hit me at the same time. "She's going to poison you tonight," he said. "I heard her on the phone. They think you're dying anyway." "I know," I whispered. "The police are outside." His face went pale. "No," he said urgently. "You don't understand. Nathan Cole is a cop. He's been feeding her information." My stomach dropped. "They know about the trap," Ethan said. "They're turning it on you." From inside the house, Lauren's voice called out. "Boys, dinner's ready." And suddenly, we were out of time. For a split second, Ethan and I just stared at each other in that garage, both of us knowing that whatever happened next would decide everything. My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. Inside the house, Lauren was waiting, confident, certain her plan was about to work. I leaned close to my son. "What do we do?" Ethan didn't hesitate. He reached into the toolbox beside the workbench and pulled out his phone. "We stop pretending," he whispered. "Eve been recording everything. Calls. Conversations. Dates. Times." I didn't trust the Toronto police anymore once I realized Nathan was dirty. My stomach twisted. "Then who did you trust?" "The RCMP," he said. "I reached out months ago. An officer named Linda Zhao. She's been listening in real time." As if on cue, his phone vibrated. He tapped the screen, put it on speaker. A calm female voice came through. "Ethan, we're in position. Units are surrounding the property." Before I could respond, Lauren's footsteps echoed from the kitchen. She appeared in the doorway to the garage holding 2 plates of pot roast, steam rising from the meat. She was smiling, but her eyes were sharp, scanning Ethan's face. And then she saw it. Clarity. Awareness. Her smile faltered. She knew. "You're awake," she said softly, more to herself than to him. "You've been awake this whole time." Ethan raised his phone. "It's over. Allison. Or Lauren. Or whatever name you're using now." Her face hardened. "You stupid little, Mrs. Draper," the voice from the phone interrupted. "This is Corporal Linda Zhao with the Royal Canadian Mounted Police. We have officers surrounding the house. Please put the plates down and place your hands where we can see them. Lauren looked down at the plates in her hands. Then at us. Then toward the driveway. In less than a second, she made her choice. She threw the plates at us and ran. Ethan and I dove aside. The plates shattered against the concrete floor and garage wall. The pot roast splattered everywhere. Where it hit my shoe, it didn't just steam, it burned. The leather bubbled slightly. That wasn't food. That was acid. Or something close to it. Something meant to destroy tissue fast and leave doctors guessing. We heard her car engine roar to life. Tires squealed. She didn't get far. RCMP vehicles blocked both ends of the street. Her car slammed into a cruiser at the corner. Shouting followed. Then silence. When Ethan and I stepped out of the garage, officers were already pulling her from the car. She was screaming, fighting, spitting words full of rage and hatred. A different person entirely from the woman who'd played the loving wife so well. 3 streets over, Nathan Cole was arrested at the same time. His badge didn't protect him. His cooperation with Lauren didn't save him. The surveillance officers from Toronto Police were detained for questioning. The rot went deeper than any of us realized. It was over. Ethan turned to me, and for the first time in 6 months, I saw my son clearly. Not dulled. Not distant. Just him. He wrapped his arms around me, and I broke. We both did. Right there in the driveway, surrounded by flashing lights and strangers, we cried like we hadn't allowed ourselves to cry in months. 8 months have passed since that night. Allison Draper is awaiting trial for 2 counts of murder, 3 counts of attempted murder, fraud, identity theft, and more charges than I can keep track of. Nathan Cole took a plea deal and turned witness. He confirmed everything: Danny's murder, the plan to kill me, the systematic drugging of my son. They exhumed Danny's body. The second autopsy confirmed it. Digitalis in controlled doses. Enough to cause cardiac arrest, but metabolize quickly. She'd done it before. She knew exactly how to make it look natural. Ethan is healing. He's in therapy, working through what it means to realize the person you loved never existed. Some days are better than others. But he's here. He's himself again. We have Sunday dinners now. Just the 2 of us. Sometimes Greg joins us. Sometimes we sit in silence. Sometimes we laugh. The business is strong. We renamed it Carter and Carter, in Danny's honor. And me? I'm 64 years old. Still breathing. Still standing. Despite her best efforts. Every few weeks, I drive up to Georgian Bay. I sit on the dock where Danny and I used to fish as kids. I talk to him like he's still beside me. I tell him what he missed. I thank him for saving my life. And I make the same promise every time. I will never ignore my instincts again. I will never stay quiet when something feels wrong. I will never let anyone isolate the people I love. Danny taught me that. Even in death, he's still teaching me. My brother. My best friend. The man who paid attention when everyone else looked away. I won't waste the life he saved. None of us will.